Over YouTube in the last couple of weeks, I have been seeing videos pop up that say, I quit, the great resignation, why I quit my job, why people are quitting their jobs. And every single time I have seen these videos pop up, I'm not gonna lie, my curiosity has been piqued and I've decided to click on them and hear what they have to say. And what I found was something quite interesting. So economists have coined it as the Great Resignation. And essentially what they're saying is that we're currently going through a time in history when people are quitting their jobs more than ever before. According to a BBC article, a Microsoft survey of more than 30,000 global workers recently showed that 41% of workers were considering quitting or changing their professions this year. Furthermore, in the US alone, in April 2021, more than 4 million people had quit their jobs, according to a summary from the Department of Labour, the biggest spike on record. And another study found that workers in the UK and Ireland showed that 38% of those surveyed planned to quit in the next 6 months to a year. Now, when you hear all these statistics, you do start to question, what is going on? What is happening? Am I missing something? Is there something I should be doing? And what is the big picture here? Now, one of the interesting videos that I did watch about this phenomenon said that even though there was a big spike on record, for instance, in the US in April for people quitting their jobs, it wasn't that vastly different to what they had seen in the previous April, which was around 3.8 million. Now, I haven't fact checked whether that is correct, but if it is correct, then it does show you that sometimes these headlines are inflated and exaggerative and don't fully tell the full picture. But for me personally, I definitely think there is a shift going on, a power struggle between the employer and the employee. And normally, I think the employer comes out on top. But right now, I think the employees are actually winning this battle. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what are some of the things that are happening that is causing this great resignation, that is causing people to question their employment. And we're also going to talk about what it could potentially mean for you as an employee. The first point that I want to touch on is the great realization that people don't need to be in the office in order to be efficient at their jobs. And some companies have been forward thinking in this approach. They realize that working from home is a good thing for employees. It gives employees flexibility to work around other commitments in their lives. It reduces burden in terms of commuting God knows how many hours per day, and it shows employees that the employer trusts them to work at home and do what they need to do. Now, of course, this pandemic put employers who weren't so forward thinking into a pickle where they had no choice but to let their employees work from home. They weren't doing it as a favor to you. They didn't have an option. And what employers have realized is that working from home can be a positive thing. It may not be your cup of tea to work from home 5 days a week, but maybe 2 days a week or 3 days a week or even 1 day a week, just to have that flexibility. Now, for those employers who are demanding their workers to come back into the office, who aren't now offering that flexibility to their employees, these are the ones that are going to experience mass exoduses like never before, because it doesn't really make sense. If we had to work from home during the pandemic, why all of a sudden do we need to come into an office 5 days a week? And for lots of people, this will be a big factor into whether they decide to stay at a company or whether they decide to leave. And the second point, which is a tag on to the first, is that remote working is not being seen as a privilege so much anymore and really a right as an employee. And this is a huge mindset shift. I think if your employer is seeing it as a privilege and not really as a benefit to working for the company, then that employer will probably get left behind. Now, of course, this is all within reason. So if employees are abusing it and they're working from home and they're not working at all and they're just watching TV all day, then of course it becomes a privilege and not a right because it's been abused. But for the vast majority of workers, who have deliverables that they have to get in, you're still working from home. You are working at home. And so that mindset that you have to earn it, that it's a privilege, that you should feel so thankful and grateful that they're offering you this, is really starting to shift. The third point is that bad employer behavior that was shown throughout the pandemic is now feeling the consequences of that. So employers who weren't good to their employees during the pandemic, that behavior now is being punished. Now that we're coming out the other side, kind of the pandemic, and more things are opening up, there are lots of opportunities for people to switch jobs and switch employers essentially. Loyalty comes at a cost. For employees to be loyal to their employer, they have to feel some sort of value, they have to feel like they're respected, and they have to feel like they have a reason to stay. People are getting the upper hand on their employers, and they're able to say, oh yeah, you remember what you did to me during the pandemic? You remember how you treated me? Yeah, all right, I'm gone. The fourth point, which again kind of tacks on to the third point, is that people's breaking points have finally been reached. So some people before the pandemic were considering quitting, changing jobs, maybe starting their own business, but the pandemic really pushed them over the edge. They reached breaking points, they were overworked, underpaid, whatever else it was. And that's what can happen when such life-changing events occur. When these things happen, your life gets put into a different perspective. How you view life and the fragility of it can change. So people who were just close to that breaking point, if things didn't go so well during the pandemic, they would have just been pushed over the edge. The fifth point is that headhunting is happening like crazy. I know of people personally who are being headhunted. I've been headhunted a lot, and it's something that's happening because currently there are lots of vacancies available. And so of course, businesses and companies have to find people to fill these roles. And so headhunting is essentially undercutting another company, trying to steal their employees to try and get them to come over to you. And so of course, if you're being headhunted, if you're being offered shiny new toys, i.e. better benefits, higher salary, less working hours, you're gonna naturally want to take that new role and take that opportunity. The sixth point that I think is quite interesting, the pandemic has also forced people to find other solutions for income. Now, of course, if you were somebody who was furloughed, for instance, and had a 20% pay cut, you may have been someone who had to find that additional 20% because your expenses didn't allow for you to have a 20% pay cut. So you had to find other ways to make up that 20%, or maybe you completely lost your job and you had to find other alternatives in order to bring income in. Now, what that has meant is that some people have started new businesses, have changed careers, they've found new ways to bring in income. And particularly for those people who have started new businesses and have thankfully been able to make a success of it, they're not looking to go back to that corporate life. They're not looking to go back to working on somebody else's clock and, putting in so much work to build somebody else's company. Now, I'm not saying that owning your own business is smooth sailing and the grass is greener on that side of life, but for some people, owning their own business, I've heard this time and time again, means that they have the flexibility to work when they want, to kind of build their life around their work. And so of course, for those people who did start their own business, they've left their jobs now. They've had to do what they've had to do. Even for people who have been furloughed, they had all that extra time to do additional things, whether that was take a new course, further education, and maybe reevaluated that what they were doing before actually isn't what they want to be doing. And therefore, again, that resignation letter has been handed in because they found other alternatives to develop income during the pandemic. And the seventh point, really, which I've touched on already, but this is to round this up, is that the demand right now is much greater than the supply. And again, goes back to that headhunting thing. There seems to be not enough people to fill the vacancies right now. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, but there are a lot of vacancies. There's loads of industries that have a lack of employees right now that need people with certain skills and experiences, and all of that essentially means the demand is greater than the supply. And when that happens, again, it's that power shift going from the employer to the employee because they need employees more than employees need employers, if that makes any sense. Now, what could this mean for you as an employee? And what could it mean for me as an employee? We're all employees. Well, maybe you are, maybe you're not. But if you are an employee, what does it mean for us? I think what it means for us is that we have a unique time in history to stop and reflect. To stop and reflect and think, what is it that I'm doing now? Does it align with what I want to do? Is it the right thing? Do I want to make a shift? And decide whether we want to continue as we're going, whether we need to change it up a little bit, or whether we want to completely have an overhaul of our current life. And I think, there's learnings in this. I don't think that everybody who decides to maybe have a career shift will think it's the perfect thing. I think some people are going to say, yep, this was the perfect thing for me, I'm so glad I did it. Whereas some people may think, actually, I want to go back to what I was doing before. And I think either way, nothing ventured, nothing gained. You have to kind of explore in life to figure out whether something is a good fit for you or whether it's not. But also equally, I would say that all of this may just be a time in history that is interesting for you, but isn't directly impacting you. And that is okay too. These times in histories happen, and it doesn't mean that you need to partake in what's going on. You may be in a place that you're happy, you're in a career that is meaningful, that is good for you, a good fit for you and your life. And if that's the case, you don't have to feel guilty for that. You can be very happy and content where you are, and you can kind of just let this season pass. But if you are somebody who, is starting to question and think, actually, I don't think this is right for me, actually, I want to make a change, I would say just remember that you have these opportunities to ask for more, maybe where you wouldn't have before. Maybe right now is the time to make the most of what's going on and really make it work for you and your lifestyle. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, it's not really technically a personal finance one. I don't want to be in a box. I want to be able to talk about topics that I find interesting. I want to be able to talk about topics that may not be directly finance related, but I think kind of impact people in their daily lives. So if you did enjoy this video, then please thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, then please do subscribe so that you know when the next video is coming out and you can join this community and show that you are enjoying this channel. And of course, as always, write me some comments down below because I love to read them. I love to engage with you guys and get to know you more. And I'm going to end this video here. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video real soon.